Alright guys, we are back in my garage for another video, and today we're going off the deep end. We're going to try something very different on my 340i. A lot of you guys have seen the premium BMW models, some of the limited edition BMWs that have these yellow DRLs. And the whole idea behind it is it gives it kind of a motorsports theme. You know, a lot of race cars use yellow headlights, and so this is something that kind of edges in that direction without going completely yellow. Now, the cool thing is a lot of companies are selling modules for our cars that will convert our DRLs to yellow as well. So if you have LED icon headlights, these modules will be swapped onto your car, and instead of white, your DRLs will be yellow after the DIY. Now, the good thing is this is completely reversible, so if you don't like it, you can always go back to stock, or you can flip them in whichever times you feel convenient. But for me, it was something that I just kind of wanted to try. I was actually considering putting complete yellow film over the headlights, and this is kind of like a nice middle ground, I think, to see how well I like it. Now, I do want to give a big shout out to KiesMotorsports because they are the ones that supplied these headlight modules, so a big thank you to them. You guys know that they're a sponsor for the channel and they've been supporting my build, so I will have a link in the video description in case you guys are interested in buying this for yourself. But let's go ahead and jump right into it. We're going to swap over to the yellow DRLs on my car and see how they look. And yeah, hopefully you guys find this video useful. Now, as always, for everybody that's new to the channel, I create these videos to help keep you updated on the latest developments in our community, as well as discuss technical topics so that we have a better understanding of how our engines work. So if you're interested in more videos like that, be sure to subscribe because there will be a lot more coming out in the future. Hey you, don't be a silly goose. This job requires disconnecting electrical connectors, so that means that it's a good idea to disconnect the negative terminal on your battery. This will make sure that you minimize the chance of causing electrical issues while you're in the process of doing this DIY. So pop open your trunk, open up the battery access panel, and grab a 10mm socket to loosen the negative terminal on your battery. I also highly recommend putting a microfiber towel on top of the battery so that you don't inadvertently complete the circuit while you're in the middle of the job. And it's a good idea to put a microfiber towel through the trunk latch so that you can avoid closing the trunk by mistake. Alright, now let's go ahead and get back to the DIY. The first thing we need to do is jack up the front of the car. The bumper has to come off, so you can either use a jack and jack stands, or you can just drive the car up on some ramps, whatever you prefer. Next, we're going to remove the rubber seal on the bumper by simply pulling it off. Just peel it straight up, and this should expose 6 T30 screws along the top edge, so all 6 of those screws need to be removed. Also, you'll need to remove the 2 T25 screws that are holding the bumper onto the headlights, so there's one tab on each side. Remove those as well. Next, we're going to remove the screws in the fender well. Just turn your wheel to one side so you can get better access. There should be 2 along the side edge as you look up, and then towards the top you'll see 2 more. The easiest way to access that last one is you'll just need to pull the fender liner back slightly and use a long extension on your socket wrench, and you'll see it right there. Now, under the car, you're going to need to remove the screws holding it onto the belly pan. They're going to be along the front edge, so just kind of work your way all the way across to remove all the screws that are holding the bumper on. Keep in mind my car is missing a bunch of them since the previous owners wanted to help me with some weight reduction, but I believe there should be about 8 in total. Then you should be able to pull off the entire bumper, start on the sides to pull them out and around the headlights, and then pull everything off slowly. There are going to be some sensors behind it and electrical wires, so just be careful. Mine is long enough so I can actually put the bumper on the ground before I disconnect the wires, but just take your time because your car might be different. Now, once the bumper is off, we can see the 3 modules that we need to replace. One is right here. One is right here. And then the other one is right here. So these are the ones that we're going to need to remove. Unfortunately, this one's a lot harder to access on the right side of the vehicle because of this intake snorkel. So we're going to remove this to get access to those 2 bolts. And then on the left side of the car, there's plenty of space, so you shouldn't need to remove anything on this side. So for the two modules on the bottom, they're pretty easy to access. Just use an extension with a Torx bit and you should be able to remove them. Once the screws are removed, they just simply pull down and off the headlight. Then inside the module, there's this white connector that you need to unplug. So just push on the tab on top of the connector and it should slide out pretty easily. Now you can see on mine, it was being pretty stubborn. So I ended up using a small pick tool to pry the tab up and that released the module. And here you can see a close-up of the tab. So yeah, just use a small flathead screwdriver or a pick and you can pull that up to pull the module off of the plug. Now in the side module for the right hand headlight, like I said, I need to remove the snorkel. The first thing you want to do is remove your intake. I have a race ready performance intake, so it'll be a little different if you have a stock intake, but basically you'll want to remove the upper and lower intake box to access the cold air feed behind the bumper. So for mine, I just removed the top of the box and then I unscrewed the clamp for the filter and pulled that off. It connects all the way to the front kidney grill area. So I had to use tool hands to pull this out. And once it's unclipped, it'll simply slide back and out from the little slot it fits in. Now you can see here where the little clips are that hook onto the snorkel on the bumper. So if you need to, you can use a long screwdriver to slide it in there and pry off any of the stubborn clips. Next, you'll pull forward the snorkel, and I just used a screwdriver to pry off the tabs for the grill. And then at this point, you can kind of manhandle the snorkel itself. It's pretty soft, so you can actually squeeze it and twist it if you need to, but just kind of pull it out of the opening. Take your time. You know, in my case, I have an upgraded heat exchanger, so it pushes my trans cooler way forward. So I kind of have limited space and I wasn't able to pull it out completely, but it still comes out far enough to give me plenty of room. Then the last thing you need to do is release this bracket for the hood latch. So there are two screws holding the hood latch in place. You're going to unscrew those so you can actually move the latch around. And then for the bracket itself, there is a tab on each side and one on the bottom. So you can either use your fingers or a screwdriver to push in those tabs, and then you can actually push on the bracket to slide it backwards, and that will give you more than enough space to access the headlight module. And this is how it all looked when it was all said and done. So you can basically see the latches up and out of the way, and then the bracket is underneath and slid back to give us the room that we need. And then here you can see how I removed those bolts. So I have a swivel head socket wrench and then a small extension going to my Torx bit so that I can get it at the right angle. The slot that you're sliding through is very small, so you can only do small turns at a time. So just have some patience. You'll be able to get it out of there no problem. As you can see, this is definitely the easiest part of the install. All right, so these are all three of the headlight modules removed, and even if you pulled them all out, you can tell the difference between them pretty easily. So these two look similar, but you can see this one has a big plug, this one has a small plug, and then this one, the bolt holes are in a completely different orientation, and the actual size of the board is completely different. So this is the one that's on the outer edge of your car, closer to the wheel. This is the one underneath your headlight that is closest to the center of the car, and then this is the one that is basically on that intake side, like inside the headlight where you go underneath the radiator support bracket. Now we've got the actual modules in here, so if we open this up we can see what they all look like. So these should be pretty slick. And then we've also got thermal paste. We're not actually going to need this. This is for if you have a headlight from like the 4 Series or the M3 and M4. Those are very different from these. They basically just have one big module on top of the headlight, and those are actually glued onto the module. These are just actually screwed on. So if you have a 3 Series, it might come with glue, but you won't really need it. So let's go ahead and do this one at a time. You need a T10 Torx bit, and we're just going to unscrew these two screws. All right, and then that's going to be this big connector. You can see on this side, we've got the small connector and the big connector, so just make sure you're picking the right one. But we'll go ahead and cut this open. can just break it down the middle. And then this will go on this side. This one will go on this side. And then one of these will go down here. So we can basically just slide this off. And you can actually see the difference. So this one has those yellow squares. Those are the yellow LEDs. Whereas this one has the white squares. Those are the white LEDs. But otherwise it's, you know, the same thing. So you can make sure, you know, which one is stock if it has the white versus the aftermarket, which has the yellow. I'll place that on there. Put this on. And then put the screws back in. And we're basically going to do that for all 3 modules. And just make sure you're careful with these screws so they don't cross thread or anything. So this is the nice part compared to the M3 and M4. Even though we've got a lot more work to access all 3 of these, there's no paste or anything that needs to be installed with it. So a lot simpler to actually swap the physical modules versus trying to break the other ones off or crack them off and then re-glue it down. And so this is how they'll all look once they're fully installed. And you can see inside here, this black piece is basically like the light pipe to your DRL, and it's yellow inside the hole. So same thing. You see the yellow LEDs, and then this one just has one, but you know, you look for the same thing, the yellow LED and the light pipe. And now we can go ahead and reinstall them back on the headlights. Now when it's time to reconnect the modules, look inside of the holes on the headlight and you can see where the light has to reconnect. There's like a little pipe where the light shines through, and then that's what creates, you know, the look of your DRLs. So to make sure you install it properly, you'll want to line up the black cylinder piece with those light pipes, and that's how you know that you're connecting it the right way. So it should only actually install one way to slide that over the little DRL modules. So simply plug in the white connectors and then, you know, locate the modules in the correct orientation and slide them back into place. You push them on and they should kind of snap into position. You give it a little bit of force to make sure they're fully seated. And then you can go ahead and tighten the 2 screws that are holding them in. Now, before you put the bumper on, it's a good idea to test the lights and make sure they're working. If any of the modules aren't lighting up, you'll want to make sure that it's fully seated on the light pipe and screwed in all the way before assuming the modules are bad. Again, that's kind of what directs the light onto the DRL, so it needs to be fully seated. You can't just plug them in and leave them loose. The LED light has to light up the right spot for it to work. But here's how it looks on my car. I think it looks pretty good. Definitely different from what I'd normally do on my cars. It's kind of a fun mod that makes your car stand out a little bit. I think the regular headlights still work very well. It still shines white, so you're not going to be casting yellow light on the ground or anything. It's literally only the DRLs that are yellow, so you don't have to worry about anything else. Now, once you've done that, go ahead and reconnect the sensors on your bumper, and then you can remount your bumper, tighten all the screws that you removed, and yeah, that's pretty much the whole job. So let me know what you guys think. Is it too much, or is it kind of a nice OEM Plus mod kind of look that you do yourself? I'm glad I tried it, and I think I'll be keeping it on the car either way, but yeah, I'm curious what you guys think. So anyway, yeah, I think that's it for this video. Thank you guys for watching, and I hope this helps. And if you have any other questions or comments, leave them down below.